A big difference that I noticed in terms of like other coachings and e-GMAT is that I was actually taught everything from the basics. Like being a non-math student, struggle with the basics a lot. And once the basics, the foundations are very strong, then you can build off of that. So e-GMAT definitely helped me because, after I put in my initial score when I was starting out my journey, it kind of gave me a very nice suggestion on how to proceed with what topic and then how much time I should exactly take and how much time I should give to it. First time I took a GMAT focus, ended up scoring a 575, and this was after a lot of preparation. So I was completely disheartened, and I couldn't understand for the life of me what was going on. So then I took some more time. I studied a lot more, but even after that, I scored a 585, and I found the process to be very helpful and very streamlined. So yeah, I didn't really have to worry too much. So one thing with GMAT was at least I always know where I was. Like I always knew. I knew that I was ready for solving a certain specific difficulty of questions. Okay, I think once my whole viewpoint changed towards the questions being fun rather than like a form of bother that, oh my God, I have to sit down and solve more. I think that is where the real mind shift came in.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Anirudh. Welcome to today's video debrief session. Today we have a very special person with us, Anirudh, who recently scored a 665 with a perfect Q90. What makes this score all the more special was that he improved from a Q73, so a good 17-point improvement to a perfect Q90. And we are here to talk about that journey. How does one go about achieving a perfect quant score? And what are the challenges that Anirudh faced and how he overcame them? So Anirudh, before we get into your journey, can you tell your viewers small little introduction about yourself?
Yes. So first of all, thanks for having me, Ashwin. Second, so the thing is, this was my third attempt at taking the GMAT Focus edition. The first time I took a GMAT focus, ended up scoring a 575, and this was after a lot of preparation. So I was completely disheartened, and I couldn't understand for the life of me what was going on. So then I took some more time. I studied a lot more, but even after that, I scored a 585. And again, like I think in times like these, it's very easy to be disheartened when just say that okay, maybe this exam isn't for me. But I don't know what clicked, but I was like, okay, one last attempt, and I think I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to do my best in this. So, and yeah, in the last attempt, the attempt I took on 7 June, I ended up scoring a 665 with a Q90. And a very big thanks to that was to the e-GMAT team because I think during the entire journey, the help and the coordination process was so smooth that I think I would, I think a lot of it is attributable to the things I learned in my journey in e-GMAT.
Thank you so much for those nice words. Anirudh, now coming to the journey that we promised our viewers we will discuss about. You mentioned that when you did start out, your first quant score was a Q73, then you did prep, and then unfortunately it dropped below that. So this is, what 21st percentile is where you were. So from there to a perfect Q90 is a huge jump. So getting into the prep, what were those major challenges that were preventing you from getting a good quant score? Like if you were to say one or two big challenges that you had.
I think one of the biggest challenges is that even if you think you are ready for the test and like you've studied everything, I think a lot of it has to do with like the mental readiness for a test as well. You can know how to solve every single question on every single difficulty, but once you actually sit in the test and when you're sitting in front of that screen, that is when all the panic and all the anxiety and all the the scariness of the test just hits you. So I think that was one thing that I was struggling with a lot. And then also being a non-math student, even in my 11th and 12th class, I think that really, made me scared of how to proceed with quant and how I'm going to grasp like all the concepts as compared to my peers who were also studying for the GMAT. So I think all of that, like the accumulation of that really scared me towards getting a better score.
I completely relate to the latter, coming from a non-quant background myself too. Yeah. So, Anirudh, you did self-prep, you studied elsewhere, and then finally for this attempt, you decided to go with e-GMAT. So, how did you choose e-GMAT? And, if you could tell our viewers, how did then you leverage the course to really get to this perfect score?
So I have used a couple of different coachings before for like grasping the concepts, but I think I had always heard very good things of e-GMAT, and then reading all the reviews on different platforms like GMAT Club, even Reddit, and stuff kind of gave me that confidence in the fact that maybe this is better than all the other ones. And then even during my prep, like let's say when I was using GMAT Club, I would like sometimes read a question where I was like, oh, I like this question. It made
Mhm.
me like, use my brain a little more than the ones I've used before. And then I would
Mhm.
check the source, and most of the times it would end up being e-GMAT, which I thought was also a positive indication. So after my previous attempt, one thing I decided was I'm going to go with e-GMAT just because I have a little more confidence in the
Mhm.
fact that maybe I can grasp the concepts better, and then maybe, I'm gonna be more challenged when I
Mhm.
use it. And yeah, so when I started using the platform for self-web and started going through the basics and then building my concepts up from zero to like a place where I was comfortable with doing even the toughest of questions, I think I found the process to be very helpful and very streamlined.
Got
So
it.
yeah, I didn't really have to worry too much. Maybe I think at any given time, one thing so I faced in the past was I wasn't sure of where I stand.
Mhm.
Maybe I can solve the toughest questions in one day, but on the other days I couldn't even solve like a 555 question. So
Mhm.
one thing with e-GMAT was at least I always know where I was. Like I always knew.
Got it.
I knew that I was
Mhm.
ready for solving a certain specific difficulty of questions.
Got it. Got it. So what I essentially hear you say is one was the course, that is the content that helped you
Right.
build that, the foundation, the concepts, applications, then also the cementing bit, the Scholaranium bit that
Right.
you
Of course.
mentioned, sectional marks. And then, of course, I think when you say that you knew where you were in terms of your prep, whether you're ready to move on to the next stage, it was the data analytical tools on the platform, the
Yes,
grading.
100%.
Yeah, got it. So I was just asking, let's talk about the content. You said coming from a non-math background, having put in a lot of preparation yourself too, definitely a Q73 or that kind of score does indicate that there are gaps in foundation. You really need to build your ability from foundation up, and that is what you did. You did the course. So um, you were mentioning the pedagogy, the structure really resonated with you. So uh, can you explain that a bit more on this, how this helped?
So yeah, so a big difference that I noticed in terms of like other coachings and e-GMAT is that I was actually taught everything from the basics. Like being a non-math student, I think I always it's just assumed sometimes that people know a certain amount of things and like you can just proceed off of that. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. There's a lot of people I think like me in the same boat that struggle with the basics a lot. And once the basics, the foundations are very strong, then you can build off of that. So e-GMAT definitely helped me because after I put in my initial score when I was
Mhm.
starting out my journey, it kind of gave me a very nice like suggestion on how to proceed with what topic and then how much time I should exactly take and how much time I should give to it. So I think that in combination with solving the easier questions while I was studying and then the medium questions giving Quant Scholaranium and then
Mhm.
eventually moving on to the harder questions and sectional marks, I think a combination of all of that is really what
Mhm.
gave me that confidence that okay, maybe now I'm someone who can also compete with people who have been studying math their entire
Got it, got it. And
life.
compete you did and how? And
Yeah.
right. So, Anirudh, we were just discussing, and you mentioned that you also sort of leveraged the internal forums a great deal, as an for every question that you solved, you also went and saw the discussion that was
Right.
happening between the subject matter expert and um, the other students, and you could also put your query there. So, how useful is having this kind of uh, uh, option to clear your doubts? Is
Right.
how useful is that in the job?
So I think most of the course resonated with me, but there would be some gaps where I would feel like, okay, maybe I didn't understand what was being explained. But the good thing is that there's whenever you solve a question or whenever you're doing a topic, there's always an expert's corner in the down at the bottom of the screen. So sometimes when I couldn't understand something, I'd go to the expert's answer. And one good thing is that I can actually read other people's queries as well, and then they
Mm-hmm.
can follow their discussions along the way. So most of the times, the doubts that I have are something that other people have already asked before, and they've been explained in great detail, and there's been a follow up of that as well. So I think just using that experts corner section by posting queries myself and reading other people's queries is something that I think that helped me a great bit because it helped me understand different ways to solve the same questions. Maybe some person
Mm-hmm.
has done like because people when they solve it using a different way that the one that is being explained, they would also post that. And then I would
Yeah,
just try to understand that as well. And that, having the ability to solve the same question in three different ways kind of helps you a great deal in the exam as well because you just never feel stuck.
got it,
So I
got it.
think that
Yeah.
helped me like a really big.
Mm. Yeah, that's good to know. We were also discussing about the processes. You said one thing that really helped you on the D-Day is having that kind of a structured approach. You knew if you see a question, how do you go about solving it, which is like the
Right.
blueprint of solving. and this is where the process skills come in, right? So tell us how useful they were and how easy or difficult to adopt were they?
I think, okay, so easy or difficult? I think at the initial stages, it's a little tougher. Not
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard or anything, but because at the initial stages, even as like a person who's prepared for GMAT even for a little bit, you would always feel like, wow, this question is too easy. Should I really invest time in trying to solve these questions and maybe, trying to build such basic concepts up? But what I learned after like when I was taking my exam is, yeah, I mean, I think the amalgamation of dedicating that time just to build the basics as well and trying to understand it is what like really comes in handy. And then speaking about like how to break down a question and how to structure it, I think again that stems from the fact that at the initial stages and when you're actually learning the lessons, everything is taught to you in such a basic manner, like how you read a question and then you see there's two variables. Then when you're actually watching a video, then you're gonna think to yourself, wow, okay, I know how to solve these two very easy to equation variable equations. Should I really invest time in it and like maybe should I learn from it? But yeah, I think while watching it and then while doing the easier questions
Mm-hmm.
is what really helped me to like, get mental clarity on how to proceed with the question, how
Got
to
it.
take even the toughest question and how to break it down, how to break down the question's time in such a manner that helped me solve it in like maybe sub 2 minutes.
Got it. I think that investment that you did, on the easier questions meant that these process skills, this approach ha became second nature to you, and
Right,
that
exactly.
is needed before you move to the more.
100%. And that
Yeah.
is one thing I think I lacked in my previous attempts. I always used to take for granted the basic questions and the easier questions
Mm,
and how much they'll help me in my journey.
yeah.
But I think they're like the biggest contributor to building up your quant understanding.
Yes, and I'm glad that you decided to, create a study plan, follow it, and that gave you this
Right,
kind of a structure. That's very good to know. Anirudh, you've also used like 500, 600 questions on the Scholaranium platform, and you were saying,
right,
that kind of practice on those quality of questions and the data analytical tools that helped you finally get to that level wherein, as you said, you were in that competition zone to get that perfect quad score. So
right.
tell our viewers how that journey has been. How did you leverage these tools at your disposal and the questions at your disposal?
Um, the thing is that when I started out solving let's say I'll talk about like the quant scholarly medium
Mm-hmm.
questions. So when I started off solving out the medium question, I would be very honest, I did not know how to solve them. Like I struggled to approach them. But
Mm-hmm.
I think when I started using my understanding of the basics that I had learned earlier, I found them to be like a little bit tough, but still like something that I was able to solve. So one thing
Mm-hmm.
I did was I ignored the timing aspect of it initially and just focused solely on, how to get a question wrong and how to not give up on a question, which was very important. And yeah, so first I started doing the medium questions, which I think were very helpful because they help you use the concepts you've learned and also correlate all the concepts together because it's never as easy as just looking at a video and then applying it to one question. You have to like bring in two or three concepts. So the medium questions really helped me get together my understanding of concepts. And then the harder ones challenge me to, use those concepts, twist them around, and use also a little bit more of my understanding and then help me solve the question. But the tougher questions, I would say, were a lot with like a very big help during my entire journey because the questions they're of such high quality and like they're so tough that I had that confidence, okay, if I can solve this question, then there is no way I'll get a question in the exam that is out of my reach.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, uh, how was it during the test? What was the test day experience like? You went, I'm sure. You said you solved these high quality questions and you had the ease around quant now. So, how confident were you getting into the test that you're going to score well? And how what was the experience like this time?
Right. So, very honestly, I always started my sections in the past as verbal, quant, and DI. But this
Mm-hmm.
time around, after my prep was completely over, I decided I'm going to change up the section. So all the mocks that I took were also quant, verbal, and DI, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
same sections I went with in my exam. So when I started my test and saw my first quant question, I will be very honest. I think I still had that little bit of anxiety in me where I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, what if I don't, get this one right, or what if I
Mm-hmm.
don't do all well on this test? But I think eventually somewhere in my head, I just got that reassurance where I was like, no, okay, I've studied enough for it,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how to solve everything. And
Mm-hmm.
very honestly, after I did my first question, I did not. So the one thing is, I never really thought that the quality of questions went up so much that maybe
Okay.
they entered a very difficult range because I was so prepared that I really did not even notice a significant difference. When I saw a question, I was like, wait, is this still like on the easier range? Am I not doing well?
Okay.
But yeah, so I think the fact is that if I solved so many questions, like I've using e-GMAT, Quant, Scholaranium, and then otherwise using other resources, that when I saw the question, I did not even think of them as difficult. They were just like, okay, now I'm just looking at another question that is presented to me, and I have to solve it no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from a person of non-math background to a math guru expert is where you
No,
are
no, no.
now.
I think
But it's amazing, right? Because what you rightly said is there is that practice that prepares you to take the test, but there are also those test day nerves that kick in. And that is where I think having practiced on those kind of questions which really pushed you, challenged you, meant that on the test day, not only in terms of ability were you prepared, but you were able to manage your
right.
anxiety mindset
Exactly. But
also.
I think one thing I really have to preach is that I don't think there is anything such as over testing, like over studying,
Mhm,
sorry. I think
mhm.
the more you study quant, the more confident you're going to be in yourself. And
Yes.
I think that's just one thing I applied. And I think I studied like 7, 8 hours of quant a day
Mhm,
during the last month of my exam.
mhm,
And then eventually I reached a level where I would face questions and I would be like, okay, I know how to solve this. This is not a big deal. But
mhm.
it's a challenge. More than I have to solve this to get a good score, my mindset turned into I have to solve this because I just have to. I want to get to the answer. This seems so interesting.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you started enjoying the process, is what I
I
hear.
started enjoying the process. I started enjoying the questions. I started seeing like how the questions are framed in such a manner that they
Mm.
test so many of your abilities that you honestly start finding it fun after a point to solve these questions once you've done enough.
Yeah, that's what we tell a lot of our students. GMAT, I think, is one of the most fun exams to prepare for. It's like solving riddles, and it is
I think
important
I
to look at it
yeah,
that way.
I agree. I think once my whole viewpoint changed towards the questions being fun rather than like a form of bother that oh my God, I have to sit down and solve more. I think that is where the real mind shift came in. And yeah, I think one more thing that really helped me during my test taking, like the day of my test, was the fact that so always heard of the feedbacks that maybe you shouldn't study during the test day or one day before the test. But I realized that it is very subjective because right before my test, so my test was scheduled at like 3 p.m. Did quant from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. just so I would be warm because I realized going in cold into a quant question just never, really helped me a lot.
Mhm.
Whereas if I was warmed up, then I would be much better prepared to solve any question. So I think that is one thing I would also like advise people on. That maybe find what helps you, maybe, a calmer state
Mm.
of mind or maybe a more warmed up state of mind, whichever helps you is what you should adopt during the test day.
Got it, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to understand what your requirement is and accordingly, you know,
Right.
plan out your last few days. Right. So,
Right.
my next question was going to be, now that we've covered test, was to ask you what are the key takeaways you have because you've taken the test thrice now, two disappointments, one very happy score. So I think two takeaways you said was just have fun preparing, and also look at what your requirement is and accordingly plan your last days. So anything apart from these two, I think these two are very, and I really like the first takeaway, have fun during the prep.
Yeah. I
But
think
yeah.
Yeah, I think if somebody told me this during my first two attempts that oh maybe you should just have fun while studying, I would have been like, there's no
Mhm.
way this is actually good advice. But and I'm sure a lot of the people who like listen to this would also be like, yo, there's no way you can have fun while preparing for a test. But I think eventually it boils down to the fact that when you start thinking of it as so I started solving CR questions as a game on my phone. I would just open GMAT
Mhm.
Club and I was just sitting free and then I would just solve CR questions just to see. It's actually fun. So I
Yes.
think yeah, the biggest and one more thing is that maybe it's really tough. It's really tough to study for the GMAT, and it's really tough to keep going even when you feel like maybe I don't understand questions, I don't know, understand where I'm going wrong, I don't understand how to proceed. But I think one thing that really helps is just perseverance and having a lot of confidence in yourself that okay, no matter how tough it is, it's at the end of the day, it's just a matter of time. The more you study, the better you're gonna get and the better you're gonna understand. So yeah, I think have fun and believe in yourself a whole lot is something that I would definitely advise to people.
Yeah, that's a brilliant advice. And yeah, and I one thing that I really want to say is you say study more, and you're using the word study and not saying practice more. It's not just practice, right? It is studying is what you did,
Yeah, it's
worked
it's
on coming up
100%.
with it. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. So even in the later stages of the exam, I would not just, keep solving a ton of questions
Mhm.
just for the sake of it. I would, even if I opened a question and then I solved it, let's say if I was on the GMAT club or even other e-GMAT portal, I would solve a question and I would get it right. I would still go into the expert's answer and then I
Mm.
would look at other ways on how to solve it. Because I think I wanted to know how to, dig deeper. So maybe let's say I solve a question in 4 minutes. There's always going to be a person who was able to solve it in 30 seconds. So although I might not be able to adapt his mindset and his skill on how to solve a question in 30 seconds, but at least I would like to know. Maybe
Mm,
something clicks with me. And yeah, honestly, I had a moment like that during the exam as well. I
mm,
got a questions of probability wherein I did not get the exact answer, but
mhm,
thanks to the thanks to so many questions of probability I had studied in the past, I was able to estimate an answer out of the
mhm.
five, and then it was the right answer. So I wouldn't say
That's
exactly like never guess an answer, but like still, I think get to a
correct.
point where you can just estimate it based on your previous learnings.
Guesstimate, which gets you,
Guesstimate,
you
yes,
need to
yes,
have
exactly,
very good
guesstimate.
guessing. Then your
Yeah, yeah, you
guesses
need to.
also to be
Oh,
the right.
100%. I think that's the only way to finish like the quant section of it in 42 minutes. You will have to have the ability of guesstimating
Mm.
it as well.
Very true. Very true. I think, Anirudh, brilliant, discussion we had, a lot of takeaways. But as I said, I think the three things: have fun, use a structured approach, and believe in
Course.
yourself.
Yeah, and
So
believe me.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's really so nice to see you here now after all the struggles that you faced. I know you're setting yourself up on the next part of the adventure
Yeah,
now.
which is
So
just as scary.
yes, yes, but I'm sure you'll come out shining too,
Well,
right?
thank you so
Um,
much.
so, wishing you all the very best for the next steps.
Thank you.
And again, congratulations again on such a brilliant score. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Team e-GMAT for all the help that I've received.
Anytime.